I had not spent a lot of time worrying about what other YouTube lawyers were saying and why they felt like this wasn't going to get dismissed.
Dustin, Nick, Creepshow, they're all like in their little clique. The information they're getting is actually defamatory, and the information they're getting is going to end them up in a lawsuit. Because what's in the lawsuit against me it's all defamatory.
This source is the Westbrook's business partner in Halo Beauty, Clark Swanson. Something that has been in my life for several months has been decided upon and has been dismissed.
Before we get into the video, please do not send hate to anybody mentioned in this video. All opinions are my own and opinions are not facts. Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to my channel. We are at the end. Finally, it only took us 8 long ass videos to get here, but we are finally closing out this series. Don't worry guys, I will continue to cover Katie if she continues to be problematic, which is pretty much a guarantee because I don't think this woman will ever change. But if you are new here, you definitely heard that right. This is a part 8, which means there are 7 other parts to this story. So if you are interested in watching the story from the beginning and have a lot of time, I will link all of these videos in the description box down below. But before we get deep into the video, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, turn on all post notifications so you don't miss any uploads in the future. Now, let's get into the video. Alright y'all, this recap is going to be super fast because I literally just posted part 7 a couple days ago. So in part 7, we got into the drama that Katie created with Nick Snyder and Emily Baker. And we also got into Katie's reaction to the court dismissing the lawsuit based on lack of jurisdiction. Now keep in mind, part 7, that entire video was about 36 hours of Katie's activity online when the court decision came out, which was on March 15th. The last thing that we talked about was the tweets that Katie put out about Emily Baker, which was around midnight on March 17th. And that is where we're going to pick up at. So let's get into it. So the next morning, after Katie gets a good night's rest, after everything that she had been doing the past 36 hours, you would think the next morning she would chill out a little bit, but nope, she was already up in the morning trying to start up more drama. And something that I found funny, Katie shared a video that I had made about Dustin on her Twitter, and this was just her trying to start up more drama with Nick and Dustin. She then followed up that tweet with the following: "Newsflash, Dustin and Nick have always been this way. Why were people okay with Dustin and Nick's behavior when they targeted people they don't like? But then they go after people they like, then they are bad. They are both willing to push false narratives for their friends, allegedly." And then a few hours later, she put out the following tweet: "After more than a year of constant harassment on Twitter, Twitter is finally removing accounts that have been harassing me. Did something recently change with their policies?" And I think this is just Katie trying to get attention. That's just my personal opinion. And then a few hours later, she put out the following: "Sometimes it's more profitable to go with a lie than to look at the truth. Sadly, when views and clicks drive your income, the truth doesn't always matter to some people. I'm grateful to those that did believe in me and didn't go with what was profitable." So real quick, I don't know if Katie is living in a different world than we are, but a case getting thrown out based on location doesn't mean that she has been cleared of defamation defamation against Tati. Speaking from a viewpoint of a creator that has made videos on Katie and has went through the lawsuit and has seen the things that Katie put out there against Tati and her husband, I absolutely think Katie defamed Tati, and the defamation occurred way before any sources came into the picture. That's my opinion, but no agreement will make me think otherwise. She took things way too far, which is why I couldn't defend her behavior and why I think a lot of others couldn't defend it either. It had nothing to do with what was profitable. It had to do with the facts that were staring us right in the face. But anyways, a few minutes later, Katie put out the following tweet. I gave a shout out to Uncivil Law for his take on the lawsuit. I would like to also state that Nate Brody did a good job of sifting through the information to get to the heart of the issues while ignoring the noise. It's not easy to go against popular opinion, but he did anyway. And then the next evening on March 18th around 10 o'clock p.m., she puts out the following tweet. The thing that angers me most about what happened to me the past several months is lies. Literal lies have been believed about me. They have ruined my credibility to the point if I even talk about YouTubers, people say I'm lying. And then about 15 minutes later, she puts out the following tweet. I never hacked anyone. I never hired trolls. I never used people to do my dirty work. I didn't attack a woman that was mentally ill. I didn't pay someone to be my quote agent. I didn't stalk anyone. I didn't commit perjury, destroy evidence, or ruin anyone's business. There are some things I want to say to this before we move on. First off, the hacking. I have absolutely no idea who is behind the hacking, but later on in the video, we go through a lot of Katie's tweets in regards to the hacking and the threats, and all I'm going to say about that right now for her behavior, it's very weird, and you will see why I say this later on in the video. Second, there is evidence of Katie doing some really messed up things online, especially in regards to Tati. I mean, come on, you guys. She tried to convince the internet that James Westbrook pulled his own mother off of life support just to get an inheritance. She clearly passed that off as a fact, not an opinion, several times. There are receipts of all of this stuff. I'm not going to pull them all because if you have watched this entire series, you have seen all of those receipts. Also, in regards to destroying evidence, that happened too. She deleted videos, she deleted tweets multiple times during this entire lawsuit. We all seen that happen with our own two eyes. The lies she tells is unbelievable. She never takes any accountability, and quite frankly, I'm just getting really sick and tired of it. And then she replied to someone that deleted their tweet, and she said the following. It's awful. Everyone has made me into this villain when literally I didn't do anything. None of those declarations, it was all false. Every single thing was false. And then she quote tweets one of her tweets, and she says the following. When people have money and power, they can do whatever they want to push false narratives. In the court of public opinion, I lost, even though I never lied. Now people won't even speak out in support of me without the fear of being harassed or threatened. And then 5 minutes later, she puts out the following tweet. On a positive note, I haven't received a death threat in 3 days. And then she takes about a 2-hour break, comes back around midnight, and says the following. I'm sorry if you get threatened for standing up for me. I'm sorry if you felt like you couldn't speak or felt scared. I know that moving forward it will get better and that together we can all be stronger. I may have been knocked down and bruised, but I've got fight left in me. Okay, I am really not trying to be a bitch when I say this, but who in the hell is she talking to? Like, I can understand if she publicly says something on her channel because she does have support over there, but her Twitter is like a ghost town. Her tweets get hardly any engagement and there is rarely any positive replies. So I just don't get why she says some of this stuff and where it's coming from. Shockingly, Katie did cool down on Twitter for a little bit, and fast forward to March 24th, Katie put out the following tweet. FYI, my attorney and I are not accepting invitations for interviews. Please refrain from future requests. If you're looking for more drama, it's not happening. Please find something else to discuss. Peace. Okay, here I go sounding like a bitch again, but I highly doubt people were knocking down Katie's door to get an interview with Katie and her shady attorney. I'm a small channel and I definitely would not want that. I don't trust this woman at all, and I think most people don't trust her. So the last thing anyone is going to do is request an interview with her and her attorney. Just saying. Now, on April 1st, James Charles uploaded his apology video, and Katie saw this as a perfect opportunity to make herself into this victim of James Charles, and Katie started out with the following tweet. When James Charles showed up in my DMs less than a year ago, I said right off the bat that I felt manipulated and threatened by him. He's good at saying things in a way to get what he wants, which is why I don't believe a word of his apology. Even though I don't like James Charles, I will say from the DMs that she put online, he was trying to warn her about the lawsuit coming. And Katie ended up stabbing him in the back, which at this point, it really doesn't matter because James Charles does disgust me, but due to the allegations, creators like Katie really aggravate me because bringing up old petty drama is taken away from the actual victims and the allegations. It's no different than what Adam McIntyre did. He filmed a video about himself saying James Charles attacked him about old drama from almost a year ago, and I get so tired of channels bringing up their petty beef with creators when it benefits them, especially if you are trying to capitalize off of other victims and take attention off them. But then Katie continued with the following tweet. James had one plan last year. He needed to place all blame on Jeffree Star for what happened to him. He needed everyone to not believe that Jeffree had an audio tape. He needed the drama, as he said, to end. He was willing to do whatever it took to end it. And then a creator responded to Katie and said, how does one just apologize for being a this platform has me frustrated. And then Katie responded with, agreed. Last year, he literally told me he needed to end the drama by putting all the blame on Jeffree Star. She then continued with the following tweet. James Charles told me that he believed that Jeffree Star had the capability to people. He told me that he was terrified of him. He needed the drama to end. In order to do so, he needed everyone to not believe a word of what Jeffree said, starting to think that voice memo is real. She then continued by saying, yes, James, this is what you did to me, and you knew you had the power to persuade me. Stop lying. And then she ended up quoting James Charles from his video, and she said, what I wasn't getting before is that the excitement that comes with talking to a celebrity is literally enough to make somebody do or say something that they normally wouldn't. You know, I do agree on some of these tweets regarding James Charles, especially the one about James shifting public opinion on Jeffree Star to take attention off of him, and James knowing about the power imbalance he has. But my issue with Katie saying all of this is that she was one of the ones that were on her channel painting James into this innocent victim like a majority of the T channels on YouTube, which is why a lot of people don't take these allegations seriously. She brushed red flags under the rug because of her hate for Tati. But now that there are serious allegations, she is no different than all the rest of the channels on YouTube. She is acting like she knew this all along and James was like this and she is a victim of James Charles. It's just ridiculous in my personal opinion. And then a few hours later, Katie put out the following tweet. Tip for YouTubers that get hacked a lot or have people trying to change their passwords. It's been nonstop for me for months of people trying to hack me. Get a security key, a physical key that you only have. It's been a game changer for me. Before we move on to the next batch of tweets, I want to put out a trigger warning because these tweets are very graphic. I am not going to read them all because there are so many of them and because so many of them are so extremely graphic, but I want to show this because it shows that Katie shows way too much on her social media, and there are times where she just needs to put her phone down and focus on protecting her family with threats this serious. It's not something you should be blasting on social media because in my personal opinion, it's going to piss off the people that are making the threats if they are real. Going onto social media and leaking everything that she did is the opposite of what most people would do, especially because a lot of it is directed towards her child and you would not want to piss these people off. Now, Michael Saltz, Tati's attorney, put out some tweets at the end of March talking about the hackers and the threats that had been coming their way. Now, when Michael first put out these tweets, Katie didn't really respond to them, but on April 5th, she started putting out a ton of tweets talking about the hackers and the threats that she had been receiving online. She got so graphic with details and what was being directed towards her son, which you can pause to read these tweets here if you want to. While I talk, I'm going to flash these up on the screen because I don't even feel comfortable reading them out loud. But I will say this, if someone was sending my kids threats like this, I wouldn't even feel comfortable typing out the things one time, let alone repeating it over and over and over again like Katie did. I definitely wouldn't feel comfortable with posting emails online, which Katie did from the alleged hackers. I mean, she went crazy with tweets. It's quite shocking. I mean, I don't even feel comfortable repeating what was said to her own son. So I don't get how she can freely go off on Twitter with tweet after tweet after tweet with graphic details like this. It's just really odd behavior. Now, some of these tweets were on April 5th, and then some of them were also on April 9th, but I'm going to read out this tweet that she put out on April 9th, I believe, and she said, "I've seen my haters defend a lot of bad people that I can't say the names that she put in this tweet because they hate me. They do despicable things to anyone that supports me, like threatening and stalking them. If you want to see my community, visit me on Instagram. I'm rarely on Twitter because of the trolls." Now, one tweet that I'm going to partially read out that Katie put out in regards to the threat she had received that I found really odd. If you look at the top tweet in this thread, once again, she talks about the threats that these people directed towards her son. And I have scribbled out the really graphic stuff, but just imagine the worst thing that could possibly happen to a child. So she went into graphic details about that once again. And what I find disturbing is the next tweet. She starts out with, quote, "even worse." So what she is getting ready to talk about, according to Katie, is worse than the actual threats towards her child. So she goes on to say, "Even worse, they are trying to frame me for hacking and alleging that I've committed crimes I have not committed in these threats. Even though the FBI is involved, I truly believe that I am being to give up something that I don't have and haven't done." I don't know. I just found the wording of this tweet really disturbing and really messed up just from a parent's point of view, because nothing is possibly worse than what she described in that first tweet. Just saying. She then goes on talking about the emails, and she says the emails like this count in the hundreds, and they were made by someone using a faker email. The website they use allows you to put any person's name in the email from line. I've received dozens of faked emails from Michael Saltz, my attorney, Natalie, and even myself. I mean, to me, she's just really going over and beyond to prove like she has nothing to do with like the stuff that was going around online and all the threats and everything that everybody was receiving. I don't know. Like, to me, this is just really weird behavior. You guys will have to let me know in the comments below what you think of her behavior on Twitter regarding these threats and everything else, because to me, it's very odd. Now, there are a couple of replies to Katie that I want to read to you guys. One person said, "I believe you were threatened. However, you should keep the same energy and realize you are not the only one with a family getting these type of threats. However, you do seem to be the only one popping off on Twitter. Get off before you pull a muscle from reaching." And then Katie replied, "Not true. I've said nothing about this in weeks, before that months." And then somebody else replied to Katie and they said, "We the public have been yelling, pleading, trying to get through your head what was damaging you in our eyes. You wouldn't believe us. It was rare for you to not address things and hurt your own case. It was super rare for you to only address the threats that only stood to benefit you." And then Katie responded with, "My case wasn't hurt. We won the dismissal. So please stop inserting yourself into my business." And then they replied to her and said, "If your case wasn't hurt and you actually gained subs on YouTube, why are you still obsessing over this? Move on for your own sanity's sake." And then Katie started going off about Michael and Emily Baker, and this is what she said. "I received confirmation from a reporter at Business Insider that Michael Saltz directed them to watch a legal YouTuber for the source on the lawsuit. A few days later, Emily Baker went live with the information. We repeatedly requested to give our side and she never responded." And then she attached like a DM conversation, and this is what it said. "Of course, he spoke to my coworker on November 6, 2020 and said per her notes, if things go according to plan, there will be someone who is on YouTube who will go through everything in detail and break everything down for you. They are a lawyer and then you'll have a source." Katie then went on to say the reporter noted days later Emily had penned a tweet about how excited she was to receive praise from such an amazing attorney like Saltz. They also noted that Emily told someone privately that she was friends with Saltz. Now, I'm going to jump over to Michael Saltz's Twitter for a second here before we continue with the endless amount of tweets that she put out the rest of April 9th. So in response to Katie's tweets about the whole Business Insider thing, Michael Saltz tweeted out the following: "Believe it or not, the press couldn't care less about the Without a Crystal Ball case. No reporter has ever contacted me asking about the Without a Crystal Ball case. Even though we would have provided a prepared statement, no one wanted to report on it, even Business Insider." And Kat Tenbarge even chimed in on this and she said, "Hey, actually, I haven't talked to Saltz." And then she went on to say, "Yeah, I never covered this because it was too messy in the weeds." Which isn't shocking because this type of story is not insider style at all. From what I've seen with them, they would not touch this story. All right, you guys, buckle up because we're about to go through a lot of tweets here that all happened in a very short time span. So this is still on April 9th, 8:51 p.m. Katie tweeted out the following. Of course, they will deny that they had a relationship or that exchange of info wasn't about me. What did not change is Saltz repeatedly promoting Emily, tweeting each other, and Emily laughing at my Twitter meltdowns due to immense stress and harassment I was experiencing. 8:51 p.m. She also tweets out the following. She also seemed to make mountains out of molehills, which is dismissing huge issues on the other side. Her narrative was what she wanted you to believe, and in the court of public opinion, they won. I never stood a chance against that. 8:57 p.m. She tweets out the following. Even now, anything I say, if I have evidence, won't be believed. Everyone else can receive threats, but not me. If I receive one, it's fake. In the rare event I address anything, I'm sad fishing and lying when others haven't stopped talking about false declarations. Keep the same energy. And then somebody replied to Katie and they said, Emily is a paralegal at most. And then Katie replied with, she's not licensed in the state of Tennessee. Her website also offered legal advice at one point, if I remember correctly. But I believe she changed that after someone called her out. Okay, I'm just going to say real quick, from what I've watched with Emily, and I'm just going to be honest with you guys, I haven't watched all of her videos on this case, and I haven't watched any videos outside the Katie Joy stuff. But what I have watched on her, Emily has been the opposite of what Katie is making her out to be. If something is her opinion, she is crystal clear that it is her opinion. I have never heard Emily make ridiculous accusations and pass them off as a fact. I have heard her describing the laws and giving professional opinions, but not in a way that Katie is making it out to be. Katie just seems really delusional about Emily. Emily is more than qualified to read the documents she has, and she has always been open and honest about her legal background to her audience. I know you guys probably already know all of this, but the way Katie comes for Emily, it's just ridiculous. It's fueled by insane jealousy. And to go one step even further, Katie says Emily isn't qualified to break down documents like she has, even though Emily is a lawyer. But didn't Katie do the exact same thing with Tati's business partner's suit? And Katie has no legal background. It's just so hypocritical. But let's continue with the tweets. 9:16 p.m. Katie tweets out the following. Earlier this week, I was accused of being a hacker because of my silence. Now I'm making everything about me, so what is it? When I'm silent, I'm accused of crimes. When I speak, I'm accused of lying and being selfish. Make this make sense. 9:23 p.m. Katie tweeted out the following. I'm not attacking anyone. I've shared my opinion. Emily shared hers for months, and you all say that she didn't attack me. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. So if I speak out about her, it's an attack. If she speaks out about me, it's an opinion protected by free speech. Got it. 9:45 p.m. She tweets out the following. They are hypocrites. I can't speak. Everyone else can. I can be accused only this week of hacking for not responding about threats by Saltz. But if I share anything, I'm a liar. I'm sure they still believe I'm the hacker because of him. 9:53 p.m. She tweets out the following. I filed a report with the Minnesota FBI today. I'm calling the police tomorrow about being extradited. They are threatening me in these emails unless I give up recorded calls, emails that I don't have from Clark Swanson. 9:54 p.m. She tweets out the following. Threatening someone unless they give you information like emails, recorded calls, and text messages is called extortion, and it's a federal crime. 10:23 p.m. She tweets out the following. Tomorrow I am calling the police. FBI report was filed today in Minnesota separate to Washington investigation. 10:37 p.m. She tweets out the following. I love when people say no one likes me, yet I have a channel and an Instagram that has positive engagement. My only negative engagement is here on Twitter, where dozens of people have recently left due to harassment. 11:08 p.m. She tweets out the following. That's going to be my response to all stands that come to me with talking points, which they believe to be true. But when I say anything, I'm lying and jealous. Certainly not jealous of anyone. Trust me. And then what I find funny about this, I think she got one positive comment on this thread. Like, she really doesn't get that many positivity on her Twitter at all. And she responds back to whatever this comment said. And she said, love you, boo. My stands are the bestest. And the thing about it is that the account has been suspended. And it's weird because everything that she replies to, especially if it's positive, the account ends up getting suspended or the tweet ends up getting deleted, from what I've noticed going through all these tweets. But I just found that interesting and wanted to point that out to you guys. But we have officially made it through all the tweets from April 9th. I thought it was really important to read most of these because at this point in time, Katie had absolutely no idea if Tati was refiling or not, and she just kept going on and on and on. She was trying to start up drama with Tati's attorney and just doing a lot of things that just aren't smart at all. To me, this behavior behavior is just really odd, especially given the circumstances. But we are not done yet, because the next morning, Katie tweeted out the following: "Good morning to all the haters that are mad. I didn't go live and lose it on Instagram or YouTube. Sorry, that's not going to happen this time. I just shared what I shared and went to bed." And Katie, you kind of lost it on Twitter the night before. I mean, there were a ton of tweets. I think we are at like 20 minutes of me reading tweets to you guys, because there were that many, and I read through a lot of them really fast, so I apologize if you couldn't keep up or had to slow the video down. But then later on that day, she tweeted out the following: "I want peace in my life. I am at my breaking point. Please let me be. You have my lawyer's number, and the only place you should be handling things is with him and not on Twitter. Please leave me alone." I'm gonna take a guess. She's probably talking about Saltzy here, but I'm not 100% sure on this. But given the circumstances of the night before and everything that she put out on Twitter, she's the one that's saying the place to handle this is not on Twitter. I mean, she is so hypocritical in the things that she says. But somebody ended up replying to her, and they said, "Katie, why did you even start the thread about Business Insider? Saltzy and Emily haven't talked about the case since it ended." And then somebody else replied, "She needs drama. No one cares about her anymore." And then on April 12th, Katie tweeted out the following: "I am going to be changing how I use Twitter. I find Twitter and Instagram do not match. I am moving away from covering influencers I have been for a while. So if I unfollow you, please don't be offended." And I'm sure nobody's going to be offended if you unfollow them, Katie. But she goes on to say, "I'm just not working that beat anymore." And then she also says, "Because I'm moving away from covering influencers and due to the amount of allegations that have come out about James Charles, I am in the process of privating videos related to him. I also won't be covering the current allegations against him." And I find that funny, because you know what, Katie? You were a channel painting him as an innocent victim. So I'm glad you at least privated the videos that you made. Because of your hate for Tati, you painted James as an innocent victim. So at least she did that, you guys. And then she goes on to say, "I rarely covered beauty influencers. I'm unlikely to cover them in the future. I wonder why. Maybe because you got sued by Tati Westbrook." But anyway, she goes on to say, "I've always covered fundamentalists, extremists, cults, reality TV, along with some true crime. That's where I'm going to be if you want to find me." So you guys, we're at the end of the endless amount of tweets. Now, there was a period of time where Katie completely deactivated her Twitter. I actually got stuck in editing because I couldn't pull the screenshots, because she went dark for probably like a week or so. I don't know why she went dark, but if I were to guess, it was probably like every other time she went dark, and she probably said somewhere things were getting too stressful, like she always does right before she deactivates everything. But moving on, we have finally made it to the final segment of this video, and that is where Tati and Katie came to an agreement with the lawsuit. So let's get into it. On April 20th, Michael Saltz tweeted out the following: "Our office and Without a Crystal Ball are working with the FBI to identify and prosecute the hackers who have victimized both sides and others on YouTube and social media. We have not accused Without a Crystal Ball of being one or being directly involved with the hackers." And then Katie quote tweeted Michael Saltz, and she said, "Thank you for this. Michael has provided information on how to report to the FBI if you have become a victim to this horrific campaign of hacking and harassment." She then went on to say, "The FBI is treating both sides as victims of hackers. If you are someone that is also a victim, please use the link below to report directly to the FBI." So it seemed at this point that they were working together to figure out the hacker situation, and there was talks that they were working on forming an agreement instead of going into court, because there was a statute of limitations that would run out at a certain period of time, and due to the amount of time that was going by and Tati not refiling, everyone was speculating that they were going to come to an agreement. Fast forward to May 3rd, Katie put out the following tweet: "With regard to dispute with the Westbrooks, the parties have entered into discussions to resolve this dispute without incurring the substantial costs and delay further litigation. She then went on to say, to that end, they have agreed to toll applicable statutes of limitation to permit these discussions to continue without prejudicing either party's rights. During these discussions, the parties will not be making public comments or answering any questions related to the dispute. So basically that means that they have agreed to be in mediation, and if it takes a long time to get a agreement established and the statute of limitations runs out, they have signed an agreement to the point where if they don't reach an agreement, then Tati can go ahead and refile and the statute of limitations will not run out. To my understanding, that's what that means. I believe this tweet is around May 25th, and she put, "This week has been super busy. I have been in meetings 2 full days this week. There's big news coming, and I hope this will be really positive move going forward. Always stay positive." And on May 25th, she put out the following tweet, "Literally deleting all my tweets, starting fresh. Don't be upset. It's time for a new me." And then later on that day, she put out, "My Twitter is cleaned out. I'm so ready to start fresh. Please don't come at me with negativity today. I'm too busy shining bright." And she literally cleaned out her entire Twitter. Everything was deleted. So I am like so lucky I got the screenshots that I got when I got them, because she literally deleted everything. Then on May 27th, Michael Saltz put out the following tweet, "Minneapolis has a beautiful courthouse. Due to the parties' ongoing mediation efforts over the last few days, we will not see the inside of it." And then Katie pinned this tweet to her profile, and she said, "Compromise isn't easy but necessary. Sometimes you have to realize that you can find common ground, move forward, and find a positive resolution. Sometimes it's easier to stay mad than forgive. Today we're working toward healing. Details coming soon." So they definitely came to an agreement, and honestly, you guys, I'm surprised they did. After coming as far as they did and the amount of money that must have went into that lawsuit on Tati's side, I am very surprised she settled. I guess at the end of the day, you gotta look at the overall picture, because if Tati would have took it all the way to the end and she won, she would never see the money from Katie's side. It would have been only about winning and proving a point. I think Tati had a really strong case, but at the end of the day, I don't wish anyone to go bankrupt over something like this. On June 4th, Katie uploaded a video to her YouTube channel that was titled, "We Settled Our Lawsuit with Tati and James Westbrook, Our Official Statement." And this is what Katie had to say. Check it out.
So lawsuits are not fun at all. They're super stressful and they are so expensive. They can also potentially be avoided if the parties can find a way to sit down with one another and find common ground. And that is exactly what happened here. I'm so happy to announce that a settlement has been reached as to all of the claims between myself and Tati and James Westbrook. So I'm not at liberty to tell or discuss any terms of the settlement, but what I can say is that both sides, we engaged in a lengthy mediation. Through talking with one another in the mediation, I was able to share with the Westbrooks that as part of my defense, some of the certain statements that I had made that they had found to be disparaging had actually come from various sources. I learned information from them that actually led me to believe that several of these sources had manipulated me into publishing disparaging statements about the Westbrooks for their own purposes and to otherwise cause harm to the Westbrooks. Because of this, I have since deleted these statements from my social media platforms, and I've removed all the videos related to this matter as well. As the Westbrooks recognized that I had been manipulated and weaponized by some of these sources, the Westbrooks and their representatives have also withdrawn their statements that they've made about me. One of these sources in particular had repeatedly contacted me totally unsolicited and provided me over the course of several months with disparaging information about the Westbrooks and their various businesses. It's now my opinion that this person contacted me for the purpose of feeding me and manipulating me into publishing disparaging statements about the Westbrooks to cause them harm. This source then sued the Westbrooks and asked me to break the story about his lawsuit. This source is the Westbrooks business partner in Halo Beauty, Clark Swanson.
Well, duh, we knew that already. And she was such a bad liar all this time about Clark not being her source. We all knew he was her source. It was so obvious that he was her source. But let's continue watching.
As a result of having the ability to speak with the other side and to better develop an understanding of what has happened, I have agreed to provide whatever information and physical evidence I have to the Westbrooks about my communications with the sources that provided me with such disparaging information, and to cooperate in the Westbrook's efforts to address some of the damage caused by the dissemination of such disparaging information. As there is ongoing litigation in other matters, none of the parties involved in our matter will be discussing or answering any questions about our lawsuit or its settlement.
Well, there you go. They came to an agreement with details that we will probably never know. The one piece of information we got was something that we already knew, and that was that Clark Swanson was her source. It was very obvious that he was her source. It's really interesting going through all the tweets we just went through and hearing her lie. In the video we watched that Clark wasn't her source and hearing her lie about not having communications with him. I mean, she is a terrible liar, but how she can lie so easily is just really interesting to me. The other thing I want to point out about this video is I find it interesting that Katie is a victim of Clark, and she took no responsibility for any of the statements that she made prior to having contact with him, because there is no way in hell she was in communication with Clark when she was a tiny channel doing an expose on Tati and her husband. She wrote that article and made some serious accusations, not only in the article, but also on her YouTube channel and her Twitter. But Katie, according to Katie, is the victim of Clark, and that is why she made the statements that she made, according to her. It's just weird she didn't address any of that, and you would think Tati would want that cleared up, the accusations that Katie made about James and his mother and pulling her off of life support. But hey, it's their business. I'm glad it's over, because whoever was hacking and threatening people, that was scary and a huge reason why I didn't cover those declarations. But let me know in the comments below what you guys think of them coming to an agreement. I am really interested to hear your thoughts and opinions. But moving on, we're going to jump back over to Katie's Twitter. After she put this video out, she put out the following tweets. It always amazes me that there are people that would rather stay mad and upset than actually work towards forgiveness and healing. I'm always going to take the path to happiness versus spending my time stuck in hate. Have a great weekend, everyone. Somebody replied to Katie and they said, then why did you make so many videos about Tati and her husband defaming them for years on a relentless hate campaign? You expect forgiveness when you haven't earned it. Reflect on how you treat other creators. The only thing amazing, how obtuse and hypocritical you are. And I could not agree with this statement more, because they really hit the nail on the head with this statement. And then somebody else replied, you thrive on this. And then somebody else said, she literally can't stop lying. No one who has watched her for a while would ever use the word happy to describe her. And then a little later, here she is again talking about Emily Baker. She put out the following tweet. I love how Emily Baker's stands show up at my channel telling me that what I've disclosed is quote old news, given that she isn't privy to any of this information, nor does she have any inside details or knowledge. Please stands, leave me alone now. This case is closed. And then somebody replied to her and they said, glad you settled the case. I hope you'll never have to deal with it again. The accurate information is that she covered it and gave her thoughts on what she thought the outcome might be. That's it. And then Katie replied with, she will never know the details, nor will anyone else. Everything is settled. Now, I would like her to leave me alone for the rest of her time on YouTube. I'd like her stans to stop harassing me. Thanks. Why does she always say thanks at the end of a lot of her tweets? I just think it's funny, because she's just not the type of person that strikes me as like a polite person that says thank you and you're welcome and that sort of thing. It's just something that I've always found funny about her tweets. And then somebody else said, the thing, Katie, she doesn't want the details. She has moved on. Like I said, you were a 5-minute segment in her life tonight. She even asked first if it was worth going over. During that time, people were asking her about Erica Garati, I think is how you pronounce that. And then they also said, Emily is not clapping back at you. You came at her. She has said this all along. She was not responding to you and has not. The Emily stans are actually people who have been going at you all along. Stop letting them get to you. And then somebody else replied, Emily has never harassed anyone, especially KJ. She covered the court case. That's it. KJ on a daily basis harasses, bullies, stalks, defames, judges, and degrades people calling it a job. Emily is 10 times the person KJ could ever hope to be. KJ is extremely jealous of Emily, and she can't handle the fact that Emily pulls in a much larger audience doing just a tenth of the videos that KJ does. People respect Emily. KJ leads the most pathetic existence, spending 16 hours a day online, no friends or family. Everyone despises her for good reason. And then a couple hours later, Katie put out the following tweet: I have never spoken to Jeffree Star or his associates about anything. Thanks. And I don't really understand why she put this tweet out and who was asking her what. Like, she just pulls stuff out of thin air. So I don't really understand where some of these tweets come from. But then an hour later, she put out the following tweet: I have an amazing attorney. Truly. I truly wish that people knew what an amazing professional Michael Brown is to his clients. If you are in the Seattle area and need a civil attorney, hands down, I would recommend him 1,000,000 times over. Oh my gosh, you guys, we are at the end of her tweets. We are current. We are up to date. Well, kind of. In the last 24 hours of me editing this video, Katie is hardcore going in on Creepshow art because of the heat that Creepshow art is under right now online. And Katie, to no surprise, has decided to jump on that bandwagon. But we are not going to get into that today because the information is literally coming out as I am editing this video. But let me know in the comments below if you want me to cover what's going on with that. But you guys, this series is officially over. I can't believe it was 7 parts. 7 parts. Well, actually, it's going to be 8 parts because I'm definitely breaking this into a 2-part finale because this video would literally be 1 hour and 20 minutes, and that's just way, way too long. So if you made it through every single video in this series, I applaud you because it's just crazy to me how much drama Katie got into during this whole process. She acts like she's going to change and do better, but already she is back to her old ways. She really, honestly came out pretty good considering who she was going up against, and Tati could have just refiled and continued to see this through till the end. Katie should honestly be grateful, and she should do some self-reflecting and do better, but I can already see that's not going to happen. If she doesn't change, I know this probably won't be her last lawsuit because she has a tendency to pass her opinions off as facts, and it's not good. But let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys think about the whole situation. And before I go, I would like to take a second to thank my members. Thank you to Boy Mama, The Dark Magician, Susan, Sam, Phoebes, My Love Floral Foam, Starla, Lori, Beyond Help, Leah, Stephanie, Lee Sherwin, Zales, Liz, Diana Beth, Claire S, Smiley Mama, Maury, Bugsy B, Doublemint, and Ginger Snap Girl. Thank you all so much for being members of my channel. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Comment down below what you guys thought of everything. Please like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you guys all in my next video. Bye, guys.